Creating consistent content that attracts the right audience is one of those tasks that many wineries that do their own social media struggle with. Opening an account on social media is easy enough. Getting excited about sharing with the world what you love is easy enough. But keeping up with sharing relevant content consistently is where many get discouraged and demotivated. The effect of that is that we start posting content just because we feel we have to, and it becomes a mechanic task. Content that has been placed just to tick the box, just to feel like we've done what we were supposed to. Or again, I see content that is just not interesting to me as a wine consumer. It has been clearly posted from the perspective of the business, not the client. For example, yesterday, and that's why I'm doing this today, I came across an Instagram account from a winery that pretty much always posts images with their wine bottles. And for me, that's just a bit too repetitive and, to be honest, useless. I did not really connect it to that brand and couldn't be bothered reading their text, and I decided not to follow them. Look, I am the first one to admit that creating consistent content on a weekly basis is not easy and it takes time. When Facebook for Business first came around in, I think, 2010 or 11, I was all over it. I was marketing manager of the Adelaide Convention Center, and we definitely tapped into the power of social media communications. But as my role at the center got bigger, I found myself handling about 20 social media platforms across 8 different brands. And while I wasn't handling the content myself anymore, I had long realized that we needed to have a system in place in order to be consistent. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble. So, if you want to have a social media presence, and I think you pretty much have to nowadays, you need to be committed to it and show up for it. Otherwise, you will not be credible. Your audience will feel like you're just performing a task, a job, because you have to. So the question is, how do you get this weekly content done consistently? How do you show up for it consistently? Before I get started with some practical tips based on my professional experience, I know life happens, we are all busy for different reasons, and sometimes we sit down in front of our laptop and nothing comes out. Been there, done that. It's okay, it's fine. That's why I cannot stress more how important it is to be committed and show up each time, even when you really can't be bothered. If you do not feel like you can do that, then don't even get started on social media. Don't bother. Maybe this is not the right time. Park the idea and the initiative and go back to it when you feel you can actually be committed and consistent. Okay, so my first piece of advice is to, number 1, pick your topics. Now, you've got to come up with topics that are important to your audience, not to yourself. Plan your content around topics that they like. That means that you have to know your audience well. And getting to know your audience and their psychographic is a whole separate conversation. So in this context, I'm just going to pretend that you have clarity about who you are trying to attract. Another thing I would like to say about picking topics is that it makes sense to talk about things that you want to be known for. So yes, what your audience is interested in, but also what is aligned with your key messages. For example, let's say it is important for you to tell the story about your grandfather who planted the first vine fresh out of the boat in the early 1900s. Then say so in an emotionally connecting way, rather than saying such and such winery was founded by so and so in 1920 and so on. So instead of telling an historical, factual story, tell an emotional story about how it all started, and your audience will connect to that emotion. So examples of interesting topics from what I have observed at wine events and cellar doors and from a consumer's perspective are, for example, your heritage, your terroir, your region, food pairing with your wine, events that you hold, practical information, special offers. I would keep it to maximum 5 categories, as otherwise you will end up being too diluted, but that's just my advice. Don't forget that we, the consumers, love to be educated about what makes you and your wine so special compared to your neighbors. With the wine industry being so fragmented and busy, you must be doing something different in order to stand out. And you must tell your audience about it. I know this can be difficult, but you've got to go deep within and find what is uniquely you in your story. Now, the second tip, number 2, I'm going to share is this. Once you have decided on your topics, allocate a certain weight to each topic, and you can also color code them. How much do you want to talk about each topic, and what does that mean in terms of frequency of posts? For example, if you decide to post 3 times a week, that means 12 posts a month. If you allocate a weight of, say, 20% to heritage, that means that you will need to create 2 or 3 posts on average about heritage each month. One trick I have used at the convention center was to share the load with other department heads. So I would go to other department heads, my colleague, and I would ask them to come up with ideas on topics that they thought were important and interesting to share with our audience. Then I would craft the message properly. I didn't expect them to do that. However, I didn't actually have to come up with the idea in the first place. So you can do the same. You don't have to take the whole responsibility of creating social media content. You can share the load and actually distribute that responsibility across the team. Surely you're not the only person working in the winery. There is definitely a team. So what's next? Well, the third tip is to create a calendar. I'm going to suggest a 3-month calendar, but you can start with 1 month. The reason why I suggest 3 months is because sometimes there are things happening, like for example events, that you want to start sharing about earlier than just 4 weeks. Now, a way to consistently have a calendar filled with posts is to actually block out a couple of hours every month, maybe even a few more hours, to dedicate exclusively to this task. But do it once a month. Block out the 2 hours, 3 hours, do it, and then you don't have to go back to thinking, what am I going to post about today anymore for 1 month? There are many calendar templates online, but to be honest, it doesn't really need to be more than just a spreadsheet in Excel with a few columns. One column will be the date that the content will go live, and obviously that will be in chronological order. Another column will be the topic. Another column will be the platform that you want to post on, and I am just going to go back to this in a minute. Then another column will be the actual post that you will have crafted, and you will start filling that in during your 2-hour session or 3-hour session. I wanted to go back and spend a minute talking about platforms. Now, there are, I don't know how many platforms you can use. In my opinion, Instagram and Facebook are the most suitable ones for a winery. I don't recommend a blog, and that is just my personal opinion. The reason why I don't recommend a blog is because it's time consuming to write one, and blog popularity has fallen quite a lot in the last few years. It has been replaced by vlog or vlog, video logs, because people just don't spend time reading blogs as much anymore. That's just my opinion, and it's been backed up with proper research, but you can totally blog if you have the time and you like to do it. The important thing here is that you pick 1 or 2 platforms max and put your energy into that or those consistently, rather than diluting your time and your creativity and messages across too many platforms. And my suggestion, as I said before, is Facebook and Instagram. I think they work really well for wineries. You can post videos, photos, run polls, live events, build your email list, and if you decide to spend some money in advertising, these platforms, which by the way are owned by the same company, give you the opportunity to be quite targeted. And I've used lots of ads in Facebook. They work really well for us. Another last thing I wanted to share about creating content to put in your calendar is this. Back in the days at the convention center, I would constantly come up with ideas when I was busy running around the center for something else. Because I typically have my phone with me, I would just record my idea on my notes or on my vocal notes. So definitely do the same and grab the inspiration when it comes around, otherwise you will probably lose it. The last tip I'm going to give you is this. Once you have brainstormed and written down your posts for the month by topic, schedule them on your social media platform. That's if it's possible. Now, not all of them allows that. Facebook lets you do that for sure, and it's very easy and very convenient. Alternatively, you can use a social media scheduler that can post on multiple platforms. I've used extensively Hootsuite. However, it doesn't come free. A good alternative is Buffer, B-U-F-F-E-R. They have a free version, so by all means sign up for that. Or just go on Google and search for scheduler, free scheduling, social media scheduling, and pick one that you like. This is the end of my mini masterclass on how to consistently post relevant content on your social media account without falling into a hole. I do want to create another masterclass about how to understand your audience and create personas. So if you are interested in that one, send me an email or sign up to my email list, and I will make sure that you will receive a copy of that when it's ready. I really hope this mini video was helpful for you to get you started with your social media. Until next time, cheers!